We recently came back from our Alaska cruise, and I've got to be honest, I was both excited and nervous. And this was my first time sailing with Princess in Alaska, and I was wondering what the experience would really be like. The itinerary, the dining, the onboard activities, and even who else would be sailing with us. Would this mainly be an older demographic, or would families be welcome on board? Hi there, I'm Ilana from the website lifewellcruise.com. Welcome back to my channel. Now I have to tell you, we had a fantastic Alaska cruise. And I'll be honest, I was somebody who, even though I've done over 40 cruises, it took me a long time to cruise to Alaska. Now, in part, it is because where I live, it is pretty cold most of the year. I live in Canada. And so the idea of going to a cooler climate just didn't really appeal to me. But I admit I was wrong on that, and I was missing out for years. Now in this video, I'll be sharing our experience both on the cruise ship and in ports. And I have been keeping track of many of the questions, so I'll be answering those as well. And of course, I will be sharing tips and tricks along the way. Now, before I get started, I did want to mention that if you like this video, if you find it helpful, informative, or enjoyable in any way, then please do give this video a big thumbs up. I really do appreciate it. And please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Let's get started. Our Alaska cruise. We were sailing on board Discovery Princess. Now, this cruise ship left from Seattle, Washington, and our itinerary was Juneau, Alaska, Dawes Glacier and Endicott Arms, Skagway, Ketchikan, Alaska, and Victoria, Canada. Now I have to tell you, I wasn't 100% sure about this itinerary in terms of leaving from Seattle, what there really was to do there. And Victoria, Canada, it is a pretty short stay, so I wasn't even sure if that was worth it, so to speak, but I am going to share with you what we did and why I think I underestimated how amazing this itinerary is. Now, by the way, we were invited by Princess Cruises on a press trip for this cruise. However, all opinions are my own. Okay, so first let's talk about the ship, and then we will go back to Seattle where this cruise ship started. We were sailing on Discovery Princess, and Discovery Princess is one of Princess Cruises' newest ships at about 145,000 tons. It's been sailing since 2022. It has approximately 3,600 passengers on board at double occupancy and approximately 1,350 crew. Now during our sailing, which was at the beginning of summer, there were families with children on board, so with triple and quadruple occupancy, there was just a little bit more. Embarkation day. Now we flew into Seattle about a day and a half before our cruise because we did want to have some time to explore Seattle, and like I always say, make sure that you fly in at least one day before your cruise. I'm glad that we did because there was a time difference. So this helped us to acclimate, and at the same time, we really enjoyed Seattle. Now, we stayed at the Sheraton Grand Seattle, which was just about 5 minutes walking distance from Pike's Public Market. Now, we had a fabulous time at Pike's Public Market. The pastries were so good. A lot of the food was very authentic and local, which is something that did surprise me. Sometimes you go to places and it's like very touristy and just not that good quality, but that wasn't the case here. We enjoyed some sweet treats, some fish and chips, and chowder, and even some mac and cheese, all while exploring Seattle. We also explored the city on foot, and the Space Needle was about 15 to 20 minutes walking distance from our hotel, and that was a really enjoyable thing to do as well. Boarding Discovery Princess, we arrived at the cruise terminal at approximately 12:30 p.m., and it was a very easy and fast embarkation. We went straight to check-in and picked up our Princess medallions. And by the way, for anybody that doesn't know, when you sail with Princess, you have a medallion instead of a cruise card. This makes everything on your cruise ship very easy, from unlocking your cabin door to ordering coffee and drinks to even purchasing items in the store. Now, just a little tip, you can actually have your Princess medallions mailed to your home if you do your check-in early. However, I waited till about a week before my cruise to do my online check-in, and unfortunately I had to pick them up at the port, but it really wasn't a long line at all. Once we got on board, we quickly went to our muster station, followed by heading to our cabin to drop off our bags. The deluxe balcony cabin was absolutely beautiful, bright, modern, airy, loved it, but more on the cabin a little bit later. We then headed over to Alfredo's, which is one of my favorite casual restaurants on board. The pizza is absolutely so delicious, as is the calzone. And then we headed up to the top deck for sail away. We were very lucky as we had absolutely beautiful weather when we left Seattle. It was approximately 65 degrees Fahrenheit or about 18 or 19 Celsius. And this just really helped to make sail away so much fun. Now, by the way, even though an Alaska cruise is not the same as a Caribbean cruise, you might be surprised at how many people go swimming. On embarkation day, that swimming pool was full. It was pretty nice. But even during the cruise, there were people swimming. There were people going in the hot tubs, in particular on those warmer days, but even on the cooler days as well. Now, I'm going to go back to the cruise ship in just a minute and the activities, because I wanted to share something that was an observation I had about this Alaska cruise. It is really interesting how the cruise ports and the sea days and the activities, how it all intertwines to become a very immersive Alaska travel experience. And I do think that that's something that is very different from other cruise itineraries. Okay, so before we get to the cruise ports of call, let's talk about sea days on Discovery Princess and what is there to do. As I know that a lot of people do wonder about this. There were so many activities available during the day, from enrichment activities to fun family activities to craft activities. In fact, I did something that I've never done before. Even Frank and Ethan did that with me. We did an origami craft class where we made these little boxes. It was so well attended and people had so much fun. And not only were we doing this activity, but in the piazza or the central hub or atrium of the cruise ship, there were a lot of other activities going on as well. So it really made it a lot of fun, whether you were participating in an activity or you were grabbing a bite to eat at the International Cafe, or you were listening to some music, or maybe even if you were up on the top deck watching movies under the stars. Now there's also shopping, and I mentioned the shopping because this was very interesting to me how this was just one aspect of the cruise ship that was very themed to Alaska. The souvenirs, the crafts that you could purchase, the local items, they really have an absolutely beautiful collection. And I do have a little tip. If you find something that you like, don't wait until later on during the cruise, because those items and those sizes that you might want in some of the clothing, they really do sell out. I bought an Alaska hat. I absolutely loved it and wore it during my port days. Now, for those that like trivia, there was trivia that was going on during the day. And there were audience participation games as well. Although I have to say, in Princess Live, the audience participation games in the evening were truly one of the best activities. But of course, you also do have shows going on, and that's in particular in the evening time. You can see production shows that were really good, and there was a magician on board as well. Now, I will share more about the dining, about Princess Plus and Premier. I know a lot of people have questions about that and our cabin. But first, I did want to share with you some of what we did in port. Ketchikan, Alaska. We booked an authentic Alaska fishing excursion while in Ketchikan, and I wasn't sure. This could either be one of the best days of my cruise or one of the worst days of my cruise, I was thinking, because I didn't know how this would go. But it ended up being so much fun and really a great experience. Now, it turned out that this excursion accommodated about 6 people, and we were only 3 people on the boat. So we just got lucky. And sometimes that does happen. Now, Captain Steve took us about 45 minutes out. I've never fished before. He showed us how to put our lines in. We ended up catching so much fish. Some of it we had to throw back because there are some rules in Alaska as to what you can keep and what you can not keep. And there were other fish that we were able to keep. So we caught about 10 codfish and 1 chum salmon. We were actually able to have those processed, frozen, and sent home. But we did also catch a really big halibut and 2 king salmons as well, which we did have to throw back. One of the things that I do think is a lot of fun when going on a cruise is to try something that's a little bit different. So I absolutely have no regrets. Now, in the afternoon after our excursion, we walked over to Creek Street, and that was a lot of fun. And then we walked into some of the souvenir shops as well. Glacier Viewing. This was one of the days I was the most excited about, and it definitely didn't disappoint. We were glacier viewing in Dawes Glacier and Endicott Arms. The only thing is, this was a very early morning. I think glacier viewing started somewhere around 6 a.m., maybe a little bit earlier. And even though we had a balcony cabin, we decided to walk up to the top deck and see the view from there. And it turned out that one of the best views was at the aft of the cruise ship near the Wakeview pool. Now, a little tip, this is right at the World Fresh Marketplace or the buffet, so you can actually grab some breakfast and even eat outside or just inside, where you can still have these incredible views. Now, if you have a balcony cabin, that's a great place to view the glaciers. The ship will actually turn around a little bit, so you're still going to get a really good view. Now, something that we did is we had the ultimate balcony breakfast. Definitely very special, a really nice little bit of luxury while you're just looking at these incredible views. But I do have a tip for you, and that is to ask your cabin attendant for a cozy outdoor blanket. They can bring these to your cabin. And I know some people say, is it really that cold? Well, you have to imagine that glaciers have ice and snow on them. So it actually, at least when you're viewing glaciers, yes, it is cold. So you can definitely put on a jacket. But if you want, you can have a cozy blanket instead. Now, this was actually quite a busy day because we had glacier viewing in the morning, and then we would be arriving in Juneau in the early afternoon. So you want to really plan for that day. And what we did is we decided to head over to Tracy's Crab Shack for a late lunch. But I will tell you, because we knew it could be a little bit of a wait, we had a little snack on board. We went to the International Cafe, which, by the way, I think is open about 24 hours a day, maybe 23 and a half. I'm not 100% sure, but the food does change over, and that is a great place to stop for breakfast, for lunch, or even a snack at any time of day. Tracy's Crab Shack was an amazing experience. I ordered 1 pound of Alaskan red king crab. Ethan and I shared that. There's a lot more meat in it than you might think when you think of a pound. Frank doesn't really like crab meat very much, so he ordered the pork sliders, found them very good. And Ethan did also order the shrimp bisque, which he thought was kind of meh, but he was very happy with the crab. Now, by the way, if you've been to Tracy's Crab Shack, or if you have any other recommendations of restaurants in Alaska, whether it's in Juneau or any other port, please do leave that in the comments below, because I know that's going to be a great resource for other people as well. Okay, let's talk about dining, and then we'll go back to the cruise ports in a few minutes. Now, in terms of the dining on Discovery Princess, one of the things that I really liked is their main dining rooms are named Ketchikan, Skagway, and Juneau. So again, it's very themed for Alaska, and it really does feel very immersive. I really like that. Now, we ate in the Ketchikan dining room one day for lunch, and I do think that this is an overlooked place to eat. The menu was really diverse, actually quite large, and the food was delicious, and the service was fast and attentive. Now, during this cruise, we had the Princess Premier package. And just to let you know, when you do cruise with Princess, you can choose different packages if you like, and if you like things to feel a little bit more inclusive, if you're going to be purchasing some of these things anyway. So the Princess Premier package includes unlimited specialty dining. So that meant that we were able to eat at Crown Grill, at the Catch by Rudy's, at Sabatini's, as well as at Alfredo's and O'Malley's, basically as many times as we wanted to during our cruise. The first night we headed to Crown Grill, it was absolutely delicious. And even though we've eaten at Crown Grill before, I've never had the cheesy bread that they had. And even though obviously the filet mignon, the lamb chops, the surf and turf, absolutely fabulous. But the cheese bread, something I've never heard of, and definitely it is actually worth the calories. Now, we liked Crown Grill so much that we actually ended up there a second night towards the end of the cruise. The Catch by Rudy. If you're a fish or a seafood lover, you have to go to the Catch by Rudy. It is absolutely wonderful. And we went to Sabatini's, the Italian restaurant. The appetizers were delicious. The first plates and the second plates, that's the way their menu works in Sabatini's. It was so good. And as one of my first plates, I ordered a pasta. I ordered spaghetti with meatballs. I just couldn't decide what I wanted. And usually I don't order this. I just feel like it's so simple. But it was so good that, truth be told, even my main dish, I didn't eat as much of it because I was really loving that spaghetti and meatballs, and I think I ate it all. Now, during our cruise, we had a chance to go to the 360 experience. If you have the opportunity, if it's not sold out during your cruise, I highly recommend it. This is not really just a dinner. This is an actual, almost like a dinner show experience. You're going to be transported. I don't want to give the entire experience away, but you're really going to be transported on a journey where food and drink and smells even and the visuals, they're all part of the experience. There's only about 20 people that can go at the same time, and I think that they have this 3 or 4 nights during the cruise. So if this is something that you want to do, I would definitely sign up early. Skagway main dining room. Now, even though we had specialty dining, we could have eaten at every single evening, we decided to go to the main dining room to eat one evening. And actually, Ethan went over to O'Malley's. He decided he wanted more casual pub style food. He really liked it, by the way. And Frank and I decided to go to the main dining room where, because we had an open dining reservation, we could walk in at the time that was convenient to us. Now, this happened to be Italian night, and the menu was really good. The food was delicious, and the service was absolutely fantastic. Now, I know I had a couple of questions that came out about Princess Plus and Princess Premier, and in particular, the drink package. So I am going to answer that a little bit later, but first I did want to show you our cabin. We had a deluxe balcony cabin on deck 15. As soon as we walked in, I knew I would like this cabin. I loved the decor. It was light and bright and airy. Now, in our cabin, we had a queen size bed. And by the way, for anybody who prefers 2 twin size beds or 2 single beds, you can have the cabin attendant arrange the beds like that as well. Now, we had a sofa in our cabin, and just something to let you know, the deluxe balcony cabins on Princess cruise ships, at least that class of cruise ship, they have a small sofa. However, if you have a regular balcony cabin, you don't have that sofa. I believe that you do have a chair. In any case, we had a desk as well, or a vanity area. The closet was very spacious. You have a lot of room to hang up things, and you have shelves and a safe behind the closet door. The bathroom was a pretty good size with some small shelves for storage and a fairly good sized shower, although you do have a shower curtain. And just something to note is when it comes to the soap and the shampoo, you have a 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner. So if you prefer something different, you might want to bring your own. Now, our cabin was located fairly far forward, but we were very lucky. We had really quite smooth seas, so we never had any issues with movement. And a little bit of a benefit is when we were out on our balcony, we did see the captain a couple of times. Okay, let's go back into the cruise ports, and then we'll come back on the cruise ship, and I'm going to share with you a couple of places that you'll definitely want to check out. Skagway. Now, I always wondered about the White Rail Pass and Yukon Railway. So we had a chance to do this in Skagway, and we did a full day excursion, and I definitely can recommend it. Now, our excursion left our cruise ship pretty early. We boarded our train. It took about an hour and a half until we got up into the Yukon. And by the way, if you remember like grade 4 geography, learning about tundra, you will finally see it. That was really cool to me. But in any case, the experience, the views while you're on the train are absolutely incredible. Now, when we got up to the top, basically in Yukon, what we did is we took a bus and we went over to Carcross, which is a little village in the Yukon. Now, if you're wondering, what does Carcross really mean? Well, it actually comes from Caribou Crossing, which is a fun little fact. Now, our excursion included lunch, which was surprisingly good. It was chicken, a Yukon potato, and a cinnamon donut. It was actually quite good. And we just had such a fun day. We had a chance to pet and feed alpacas. We saw goats. There were some sled dogs. There was a chance to do gold panning if that was something you wanted to do. There was a little wildlife museum, and of course, many souvenir shops. And for anybody wondering if you ever see wildlife while you're in Alaska, when we were on our bus on the way back to the cruise ship, our bus driver yelled out, "Bear on the left," and we actually did see a bear right next to the bus. I'm glad that he was out there and we were in the bus. Now, as I mentioned earlier in the video, one of the things that I really loved about this itinerary is that the sea days and the port days and the scenery that you see while you're sailing, it all blended together. So we had a wonderful sea day and I guess a half, almost 2 sea days as we were heading back to Seattle. But first we'd be heading to Victoria, British Columbia in Canada. Now, for anybody who's sailing with children, Princess has an amazing kids club, and they had quite a lot of family activities going on around the cruise ship as well on sea days. And in fact, many of the people that we were sailing with that had either young children or teenagers were having a really good time. Now, as I mentioned, there were a lot of activities going on inside the cruise ship, including even puppies in the piazza. That is actually done on certain port days. So if you really want to do that, you want to make sure that you schedule your time to get back there. The main pool area was always pretty busy with kids and families and really people of every age watching movies and swimming, or even just being near the pool and grabbing a bite to eat. But if you like somewhere a little bit quieter, they do have an adult only pool called the Retreat, and most of the time it was almost empty. So if you do have a nicer day and you want to hang out at a pool, or even hot tubs that nobody has really found yet, then definitely head up there. And we spent our last sea day, or the day that we were heading into Victoria, in the evening time. We spent the afternoon in the sanctuary. It's the first time that I've ever done this on a princess cruise, and I highly recommend it. I will definitely do it in the future. It was so relaxing, so peaceful, very quiet music, and we had a view of the front of the ship, and it happened to be that we passed a pod of whales as we were sailing. We were all able to see it. It was just so incredible to have that view. Victoria, Canada. Now I have to say, I considered staying on the cruise ship for this cruise port. I am so glad I did not. And one of the reasons I considered staying on the cruise ship is because a lot of people would say, why do they even go to Victoria, BC, Canada, when you're only there for about 4 hours? What is the point? Well, the point is, it is absolutely beautiful. It is so worth staying. I do wish that they could stay a little bit longer, but outside of that, it was still very enjoyable. Now, what we did is we ate dinner on the cruise ship before we left. And by the way, the buffet was so good. Then we got off the ship and we took a shuttle into Victoria. Now, the cost of the shuttle was about $15 per person round trip, and it brought you right into downtown Victoria, and you could buy that right in port. Now, it took about 10 to 15 minutes to get into downtown, but this was more than a little bus ride. It was like a mini tour. We had so much information about Victoria. Then when we got to the downtown area, we saw the Empress Hotel, we saw the government buildings. They're very beautiful, and we got a chance to walk around as well. Now, it is a good time to go and grab a beaver tail. They're not real beaver tails, by the way, if you've never had one before, but they're sort of like a pastry or a donut. You can also get some poutine if you like. You can buy a lot of maple cookies and other maple food products. It really is just such a pretty town, and I think you would be making a mistake if you stayed on board. Okay, so let's go over the bars, lounges, and casino, and who I think this cruise ship is for. When it comes to lounges and bars, the Discovery Princess has many. Some of my favorites were the Crown Grill Bar. I just love the decor and the atmosphere there. I also really love Crooners. And one bar that unfortunately I just didn't go to or discover until later on in the cruise was Good Spirits. I definitely recommend going there at about 5 o'clock or 5:30. They have a little bit of a cocktail or a mixology type demonstration. It's absolutely worth going. And by the way, I discovered the key lime martini there on the second to last night of the cruise. It was so good. And Frank had the espresso martini there, and he said it was delicious as well. Now, when it comes to the casino, I am just not a big casino player, but they had a very nice casino. I know a lot of people ask me about this in every video. So it has a nice casino, and if you've been there, please share your experience down in the comments below. Now, when it comes to the drinks, I know a lot of people wanted to know, if you have Princess Plus or Princess Premier, can you get more than one drink at a time? So if it's for yourself, no, you can get one drink at a time. However, if you're picking up for somebody else that's in your cabin, that is no problem. So, or if you know the cabin, or if you have the medallion. So in our case, that was not an issue at all. I would pick up a drink for myself and for Frank, or Frank would pick it up, maybe coffee for the three of us. That was no issue at all. So what was the demographic of people like, or who was sailing with us, and who do I think this cruise ship is for? So firstly, our sailing was at the beginning of summer. So this definitely has attracted more families, and truthfully, more families than I would have expected. I always knew that Alaska skews a little bit older, but I definitely think this was an awesome family cruise. In fact, I even thought I missed out for my own family that I didn't bring my kids when they were young, because there's a little bit of adventure in Alaska that you don't always get with every itinerary. And I know that they would have absolutely loved it. So many families and kids. But the nice thing is that because of the kids club, kids are really occupied. There are also a lot of activities geared for families and kids. So we never found the kids to be like overriding the whole ship or anything like that. And at the same time, there was a very diverse age group. So there were also quite a lot of people that, were seniors. And of course, it's Alaska. And this is definitely like a bucket list kind of trip or a wish list kind of trip. And many multi-generational families. So if I had to say that this is an itinerary and even a ship that is something for everyone, I would definitely say so. And I had always heard that Princess does Alaska really well. I have to say, they do a phenomenal job being able to combine enough activity to keep everybody busy, enough beautiful spaces on the cruise ship that are tranquil to keep everybody who wants a little more relaxing space happy, to have a lot of dining options, to have an incredible itinerary with 4 amazing ports and glacier viewing. This was truly an amazing cruise travel experience. Oh, and for anybody wondering, what do I pack for an Alaska cruise? What is the weather like in Alaska? I think something to expect is it can be colder or it can be warmer or it can be rainier than you expect. I know that doesn't make it easy. I think what I'll do is in another video, I'll cover what I wore on my Alaska cruise that can give you a little bit of a better idea. But I would say bring a light puffer jacket and definitely bring a hat for your cruise. And you can always bring a pair of shorts just in case. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Please let me know any of your questions about Alaska cruises, about the ports, about cruising to Alaska with Princess. Please let me know down in the comments below. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do give it a big thumbs up. I really do appreciate it. And please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Bye for now and happy cruising.